First take. Save money on RuneScape, okay? Don't use stam at Blast Furnace. Basically do Blast Furnace, but when you have no run, do a bank standing skill like fletching until you're 100 run energy. At that point, continue Blast Furnace, then rinse and repeat.
I like it with the exception of make sure you withdraw your money from the coffer so that it's not bleeding down while you're doing your bank standing skill.
When going for Wildy Pets, stop by the Rev Caves and loot people's unnoted blighted items for free supplies.
Oh my god.
That is
How
cap.
fucking far is a rev
fuck
gauge to
off.
most of these bosses?
Yeah, what is that, dude?
Take Earth and Water runes to ToB to save GP on Mud runes.
Calm down, Irene.
Holy shit!
Does Irene do that?
Yes.
Pick up other people's
That was-
They're onto
darts
something.
and D arrows after Nala room ends.
Oh,
That's fucking
Nah, dude,
Krangus,
I pick
dude.
I pick up everyone's D darts and ToB.
Dude, this
Like
motherfucker, we go to pop the purple
piece-
crab, and he fucking just yoinks my fucking D-dart, dude. He goes, thanks, bro.
Use unenchanted bolts and just blame it on bad RNG.
Hell yeah, that's what we're doing at next.
Is that
next
even
time,
cheaper?
baby.
Like, hold on, what's the price of
I
that?
guess. I think it's cheaper.
My save is I'm bringing Addy fucking Ruby bolts.
Oh my god. Suicide P1 Verzik so you can kill Vorcap on your ult while your team finishes the raid for you.
Yo, devil dip in the money pot, bro.
Oh my god.
That is 200 IQ.
Bring hard food to next and then ask your teammates to give you brews after the first kill.
I'm gonna do that.
I'm never giving Penguins a brew ever again.
Oh my god. That intro might be slightly unrelated, but I just wanted to preview a comedic take since we are about to talk about a more serious take. As you all know, Tombs of a Musket is just around the corner. In about a month, we will finally get our hands on a new raid, new rewards, leaving much room for meta shifts, new goals, and competition in many aspects of the game. But with the release of a new piece of content also comes the question, how difficult will the new raid be? Obviously, with a new invocation system, the difficulty can be scaled to whatever your liking is, and I also have high hopes that the shifts in difficulty also means you have boosted rates in getting raid uniques, where it's much more GP per hour on higher invocations. Now, with adjustable difficulty, I believe both the high level and mid level communities should be happy with this raid, correct? Well, let me ask another question. Should the raid be difficult on the day of release? Before I move on though, we must go back to the past. Chambers of Xeric, also known as my favorite piece of raiding content, was released in early 2017. I remember I did my first raid, Turbo Sleep Deprived, having stayed up getting 90 Herblore for the occasion. But with everyone trying their hardest to make supplies and survive the encounters, including Ulm, there was a team who did get their first clear. Hexus, a well-renowned skilling clan, was the first team to get a clear within the first couple of hours. And according to what Autumn Elegy said, him and the rest of the team used a brute force strategy in order to get the first clear, which did revolve around suiciding at Ulm until the boss was dead. They followed through with the strategy for the first few clears. From that moment on, Hexus, a skilling clan, was then immortalized as the first group to get a clear in Old School RuneScape's first raid. Months later though, we had another PVM challenge present itself. The Inferno had just released. A new PVM solo challenge designed to be like the fight caves, but much harder, with the reward being a nice hefty +4 strength bonus through the Infernal Cave. I remember myself watching vividly as people would progress further and further into the waves, getting to the first Jad, then the triples, and then to the mighty Zuck himself. Nowadays, we all know the mechanics of Zuck and all that comes along with him. Minions spawning, a Jad coming in around 480 HP, and healers. But back then, no one knew that any of these threats were coming. The amount of shock when we saw all those things unveiled for the first time as different streamers made it further and further into the fight just made it feel like it was more and more impossible for anyone to complete it. Especially after the release date, it was still uncompleted until on June 3rd, 2017, Woox would get the first completion of the Inferno. The race to the first Inferno completion was one of the most exciting times for the old school RuneScape Twitch section, shedding some light in some of the challenges and entertainment that could come from an old cookie clicker game. And to top it off, Reddit also blew up with the first completion of said challenge. It was awesome. But that was not the only other time we had a chance to see something exciting. One year later, the Theater of Blood was released, giving us yet another difficult challenge to conquer and new lead to get, but in a raid team environment, requiring good team coordination, quick learning of the mechanics, and a little bit of unintentional buggy beats since some of the encounters couldn't handle all the people spectating. But nonetheless, people once more competed with their best equipment and tried their hands at getting the first clear. As per usual, people would continue to get further and further into the raid, conquering one after another encounter, with punishing mechanics being the downfall of some, while also being an opportunity for others to show their mechanical prowess. And then, the final challenge, Verzik Vitur. Remember how I said that in Inferno, no one knew what was coming? Well, no one was expecting Verzik's Phase 3.
We did it! Oh no, it's not over! What is this? Keep going!
What do we do?
Keep going, just keep going!
Once more, people raced and fought for a valiant 2 days until it was cleared once more with a team that had none other than Woox. Of course, you also need to give credit to Zulu, Bodhi, Lake, and Cloud, who were on the team, even if Bodhi got a cabbage.
31 vials of blood.
I got a cabbage! Are you kidding me?
Those are some of the most exciting times, watching people compete and even throwing my hand into the mix trying to get it clear in the first weeks. Even if it ended with so many deaths and growing frustration. I think many people can look back at the release days of the Inferno and Theater and say watching people compete for the world first completion were some of the best release days for streaming content. Especially with seeing one stream jump in viewer count when they were getting so close to completion, and then it would die, and then the next stream that was close would jump in viewer count afterwards. But to be honest, we might not have an opportunity to have that same feeling again for a long time. Now, don't get me wrong when I say this. I talk a lot about ToB and Inferno as some of the most hyped releases, but Chambers was still fun to do and fun to watch people get drops, become more proficient at it. Hell, even watching people get in the lab and pioneer ways to solo it and complete the rooms was awesome. But nothing is more memorable than ToB or Inferno's release days. Of course, I can't speak for everyone since a day 1 or day 2 TiVo will leave a memorable experience, of course, but I meant in the sense of the majority. Those who watched up until the moment of accomplishment will probably say it was definitely worth the watch. Now, with that said, let's get back to our question. How should ToA be on release in regards to difficulty? Should it be similar to Chambers, clearable even with many deaths? Or should it be similar to Inferno and ToB, where a wipe sets you back to the start again? So like I said earlier, ToA will be using an invocation system so you can tweak the difficulty, which I think is a good thing. It lets people slowly scale up the difficulty for their liking, and as someone who has had a nice time teaching people, is great for bringing newer people into this content and slowly but surely turning on more invocations as they improve. That means it'll be doable for a majority of players on release 2 and not just a small minority of players. However, from a racing for the first completion perspective, from what has been said, there might not be a wipe system like there is at ToB for tombs. Well, maybe there will be an invocation that lets you have a punishing wipe system like ToB, but for everyone else, that means players can just brute force it again like Chambers, dying over and over again until you complete the raid. That would really soil the race for first completion then, since there wouldn't be as much mechanical challenge forcing players to adapt quickly and learn from each encounter. It'll just motivate players to keep throwing themselves at encounters until it is done. Of course, it'll be fun nonetheless, and people will be able to learn a new piece of content, make some mad coin, and enjoy it with either being really easy with no invocations, or incredibly tough to near impossible with all invocations on. So, in an accessibility standpoint, this is good. But in a hype standpoint, you won't get anything similar to Inferno or ToB Release. The raid race won't be exciting. As for the solutions, I've heard a couple of ideas. For one, do nothing and leave it as is. Secondly, have leaderboards or certain first players tracked based on the invocations you have. Maybe have some presets being tracked. But then again, people might complain and say that's somewhat artificial. Then it is just tracking only the first actual clear of ToA. We could also look to another game for a solution. A game well known for its raid releases. Ah yes, Destiny. Love it or hate it, especially if your name is Hunter Owner and you suck at PvP. I'm kidding, Hunter, please don't assassinate me. They do one thing very well. They have fantastic raid releases. So good that it brings back even those players who have not played in ages. I myself is someone who has not played since Destiny 1. However, whenever I hear a new raid is coming out in Destiny 2, you already know I'm jumping on Twitch and watching people duke it out for first completion. Now for those of you who don't know, on the release day of a new Destiny raid, there's a modifier called Contest that modifies the difficulty of the raid, making it where you, the player, are underleveled in contrast to the mobs you're fighting. It makes the raid much harder, forcing you to play more carefully, especially with the fact that in Destiny 2, you have limited lives before the team wipes, and you have to start over at the last encounter checkpoint. Of course, with the completion of the raid, you usually get a neat emblem, and the first team who completes it gets a nice and fancy title belt similar to wrestling, and you're immortalized forever as the world first team. After the first 24 hours though, the modifier is gone, and the raid is much easier for people to complete. You can argue that this can be really off-putting for players on day one, but at the same time, the viewer counts on Twitch during a raid race do not lie. It's something that people even from outside the game will love watching, with the viewer counts of some Twitch channels going up to even 100,000 or more. Now, do you see what I'm getting at? ToA doesn't have to be hard like ToB or Inferno for the whole time. No, but they could do something similar like the contest modifier to make the raid incredibly challenging for even the best players, at least for the first 24 hours or until the first raid completion. Maybe not just throwing stats on top of every NPC, but maybe just having a minimum set of invocations that you have to push through until the first clear or 24 hours are up. Maybe even throw some sort of lore thing in there, like a Muscat's grasp on the pyramid has weakened or something to explain why it goes from difficult day 1 to easy day 2. But the viewer counts for Destiny raid releases or even the releases of Inferno and ToB don't lie. It's an excellent way to get the word out for the game we know and love, as well as bring back older new players. Whether it be for wanting to give a new challenge a shot or because this is the first time they've seen no SRS because of the high viewer counts. But of course, the drawback would be that you'd be locking the content away for only the players who are either appropriately equipped for the raid or are mentally prepared to wipe over and over and over again. And first impressions matter a lot. A bad experience on the first day can sour it for players where they might not want to participate again. I'm speaking from personal experience and even from what I've seen from other players, with the most recent example being next on release. Locking players to mass worlds and the coppeting the whole time were not fun for people. And it made me trying to convince some of my friends to pot when private instances come out very difficult. At the end of the day, it's hard to please everybody. But I still think it was an interesting thing to talk about, just to stir some discussion. The idea behind this video came about from some tweets and from people talking about this topic in Oblivion. But what do you guys think? How would you tackle this? Let it come out in an easy state, track different invocation clears, and maybe emphasize certain presets? Contest mode? Or maybe a solution that wasn't even mentioned in this video. Let me know what you guys think. But other than that, I hope you enjoy this opinion piece anyway. It looks like it's my time to vanish though, so until next time folks, I bid you farewell. If you did like the video and want to see more videos like this, leave a like and let me know in the comments or on my Discord. And if you want to know when I upload more dumb videos such as this, drop a subscribe.